Oh, they have another program. I didn't know that.
Okay, we didn't know.
It's not your fault, Matthias. They don't
No,
need
no,
you because
thank
you're
you.
Belgian. No worries. um, do we have a question before we start off, Tom? Maybe you didn't expect this, but I read somewhere online you produced something that was called Jail TV.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
talk
right.
to me about Jail TV because that title has been fascinating me for the
Yeah.
past hour.
JLT, hi, good morning everybody. I put on a hat so I can blend in with your target group, hopefully that works. No, JLTV was a project we did a few years ago where we started a television station within the jails within Belgium, in Leuven, in Mechelen, and we created video reports and talk shows with the inmates. We learned them to film, we learned them to edit, and each month they had a 1-hour television program. Of course, they didn't went out to film. That would be a nice thing. It was all inside the prisons, but it was a good project to learn. Also, people learn to listen because that's an issue with inmates.
Yeah, I
Voilà.
guess so. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna ask all after your talk about what stories you have from Jail TV time.
Okay.
But now the stage is yours, and you're gonna run us through storytelling on different platforms and engaging audiences.
Yes, that's right. Hopefully, this works.
Okay, round of applause for Tom again.
Normally, there should be something behind you. That's it. Voila. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to talk about transmedia storytelling, which is maybe a complex word. It isn't. I'm going to make it as concrete as possible. Hopefully, you know the basics of storytelling. This is the fast part. Story begins, stuff happens, story ends. You all know that. Of course, it's a little bit more complex. You know about plot points. You know about crisis, climax, false endings, inciting incidents, or you should know. So this is basic storytelling. It's linear storytelling, where you start from point A and end up at point Z. Yeah? And you don't have the option, well, you have the option, but you don't do it. You don't have the option to rewind back or to go back or to skip a part and so on. You watch the full story. Of course, this model, which you all probably know, is becoming more complex or is becoming under pressure because of nonlinear storytelling. And this is the way we consume stories nowadays. We go from platform to platform. We consume bigger stories on different platforms. And the typical structure of telling stories, with plot points, a beginning, a middle, and a end, is becoming more complex. And that's what transmedia storytelling is about. It's still in Dutch, but I'm going to translate it, of course. So what is transmedia storytelling? Before I tackle the idea of transmedia storytelling, I wrote a book about it, Be the Story. Please buy it so I can go on ski vacation. Transmedia storytelling, before I tackle that word, I must explain what is the difference between multimedia, cross-media, and transmedia. Multimedia, cross-media, and transmedia. I'm going to explain it as simple as possible, but you all know Jos. Jos is a typical name in Belgium and in Holland. And Jos wrote the text for the magazine, and he posted the text as such also on the internet. That's multimedia, which is a good thing. Please keep on doing that, because the big advantage of multimedia is, of course, the cost. It doesn't cost anything, or almost anything, to put the same text without any alteration on a different platform. So it sounds strange, but please keep on doing that. Transmedia storytelling is about a combination of multimedia, cross-media, and transmedia. And you have to decide which approach you're going to use, comparing it to your budget, your time, your needs, your skills. So that's multimedia. Cross-media, Jos followed a workshop on how to write for the internet, and they said, well, Jos, you have to use active words, you have to start your story way earlier, it must be shorter, and so on and so on. So Jos rewrote the text, which he didn't like, especially for the internet. That's cross-media. Cross-media is to alter your story for the typical platform, but it's still the same story. That's how many companies work today. Which doesn't work all the time, because on whatever platform you go, you will always find the same story. So why should you go to another platform? it's always the same story in a different form, a different media, different format, different approach, but it's the same story. Enter transmedia storytelling, and transmedia storytelling is this big definition, but I'm going to make it as tangible as possible. It's how do you tell part of smaller stories that exist in a bigger story world, for example, about sustainability. Well, sustainability is about laws, is about emo, about people who want to be sustainable, and so on and so on. So you tell different stories of a bigger story on different platforms. Platforms, TikTok, Be Real, OnlyFans, Facebook, I don't care. Your body is a platform for which medium? A tattoo. So you have different platforms, different media, video, audio, text, combinations, animation, and so on. That's media. In different formats. Formats, testimonial, unboxing, flash mob, I don't care. That's a format, and a format can be in text, a format can be in video, a format can be on Facebook, a format can be on Instagram. And what is the relationship between those stories? The typical links, but even more than that. If you have examples of your own, please send them in, and we can use this on our website. Or if you want to comment on my talk, please use the hashtag. That's a link between stories. And of course, and this is becoming more and more important, public participation. How can you, as a customer, be part of the story? And Tomorrowland is a good example for that. Also, Efteling in Holland, of course, is a good example of the audience as part of a story. So I'm going to give an example to make it a little bit more concrete about transmedia storytelling. Oh, that's not good. Can somebody start the video in the presentation? No. Ah, voilà. No. Third try.
So video in a presentation.
Is there video in the presentation? No video. Okay, so you can, I will try to explain it. You can start the presentation again from that slide if you want to. Thank you very much. So it's a commercial about a kind of beer. It's not really beer, it's about Heineken. If you want to try real beer, please visit Flanders. And it's not transmedia storytelling at all. It's very linear, it was broadcast, it was on television. The follow-up video, which was on YouTube, was of course transmedia storytelling, because in this video they explained why people didn't believe there was the casting of the video was from their own audience. It's a little bit strange to explain a video. Hopefully you can find it online, and I will try to get the video, of course, to the I send the video, so hopefully it worked. All right. So you know what transmedia storytelling is about. Then you start the transmedia design. And a few things you have to bear in mind. First of all, the shiny new thing syndrome. Don't do that. Transmedia storytelling is not about using as many platforms as possible. Don't do that. That being said, it is important to follow as a content maker, and hopefully you're all content makers. I think it's necessary. I think it's very important that you follow all those platforms. Who is on Instagram? Put your hands up for Detroit, of course. Keep on. Yeah, keep it up for Detroit. All right. Who is on TikTok? Yeah. Who is on Be Real? Yeah. Who is on TikTok now? Shame on you. So you should follow. I was on Musical.ly. Maybe you remember it when it was only for 12-year-old girls. I'm not a pervert, but I want to follow all those platforms so I know the possibilities, and especially know the possibilities in telling stories on all those new platforms. But that doesn't mean you have to use it, and that's what the shiny new thing syndrome is about. Then, of course, I do a lot of consultancy for media companies, also in Holland, in the Netherlands, And the big problem is most of the time the short versus the long-term strategy. The media sector is evolving very rapidly. It's very disruptive. Companies can't follow the new trends, and they don't have a strategy how to tell stories on all those platforms, and that's a big issue. Sorry. So yeah, those are the old company structures, which, for example, VRT, which is the biggest public broadcaster. Remember NOS, VRT in Belgium, is the biggest public broadcaster in Belgium. They created silos a few years ago. Now I have to bear down those silos because that structure, that company structure, doesn't work, especially if you want to practice transmedia storytelling. So now we're shifting to topic-based storytelling. Instead of media-based storytelling, you're from television, you're from radio, you're from print, you're from online. It's all mixed up, and we start from a topic-based thing. Does that mean that you have to, as a topic-based content maker, that you have to know everything, that you are an expert in radio and television and online and text? No. I think nowadays you still have to have an expert skill, like for example video, or for example radio, but you have to move within a transmedia story world, of course. All right. So the more channels, more content, because nowadays, and you can find it maybe pity, but nowadays your target group is on more platforms. Maybe you don't like it, but it is what it is, and it's not going to change. So people are on Facebook, still are on Facebook. They don't engage anymore, but they still are on Facebook, are on Instagram, are on LinkedIn, which is very important, are still on television. Even in Belgium, television is dropping, especially within a younger target group, but not that rapidly than you think. So bear that in mind. There is still some future for television, and people still go to the cinema, a little bit less, but it's more dispersed. So people also watch Netflix at home or watch Netflix on the train and so on. So more channels, more content, you stay relevant. Of course, the biggest problem is more platforms, lower budgets. How do you do that? Well, the good news is, of course, I'm going to look at the time while I bring out my biggest device, of course, my most important device. This is a MOJO conference. Nowadays, cameras are becoming less complex, more automatically, like the PTZ camera there. And your smartphone is a Swiss Army knife. It's a Swiss Army knife. For the people who are really old, and I'm not looking at anybody, but I went on a vacation a few years ago, and I took a camera with me. Nowadays, you don't do that anymore. We had a dictaphone. You don't know that word, but it was a device to record audio for the younger people. Yeah, it was like that. So nowadays, all that has shifted, and it's in your pocket. It's your smartphone. So that's a big advantage. But the biggest thing is, especially within companies, is that you have to have a common vision. Because one of the biggest problems within transmedia storytelling is that you have to work together. 5 or 6 years ago, you were an editor, you were from the graphic department, you were a director, you were an editor, and you were whatever I want. And you all worked on your island. And then the video was edited, and then the graphic guy or girl went local on it. That model doesn't work anymore, because if you start a story, you have to work from the get-go, from the beginning, together. See? So the common vision is very important if you want to succeed in transmedia storytelling. Does that mean that your budget is higher? No, it isn't. Because 5 years ago, you also had to work together, but in a later stage. So the stage is a little bit earlier now. So the reason why we do transmedia storytelling, or we want to invest in transmedia storytelling, is to create a story journey. You all know from marketing a customer journey. Well, in journalism, in media content creation, we create a story journey. And that story journey makes more hunger for content and makes that your story, text, video, audio, I don't care, gets more eyeballs, gets more ears. So your video is watched more, which is hopefully your ultimate goal. So everybody says content is king, and I still believe that. I also wrote a book about that, How to Story. Please buy it so I can go on summer vacation. But nowadays, distribution is probably King Kong. See? And we talk about content atomization, which you divide your content into smaller parts. And that makes more hunger for more content. So at that time, an interview becomes more than an interview. And I'm going to get really concrete with an example. For example, I interview you, which probably lasts 20 minutes. And she's very interesting, not all the time. And I probably, no, voilà. So I probably take some quotes of that interview for television. How much? 1 minute? 1 minute 30 max? That's a lot for a television report and news. So all the rest of the interview is not used. Even my research on her is not used. Transmedia storytelling creates possibilities, of course, because I can also give you the full interview, or maybe even my research on a different platform. And then I can say, well, what's your name? Bente. If you want to know a little bit more about Bente, this is the video of 1 minute 30. Are you more interested in Bente? You can go on the larger interview. Maybe you will say, no, I'm not interested in Bente. And you will skip that. No problem. No problem. I gave you the right story. Maybe you're very interested in Bente and you will listen to the longer story, or you will look at the research I made. And you don't have to always start from fresh, original, self-made material. You can also go to already existing material. That's an opportunity in transmedia storytelling, because everybody knows Bente played some hockey when she was young. Jawel, Bente. Well, play with me, please. She played some hockey, and probably there is some YouTube video of her playing hockey, and I can use that video, which I didn't make, which already exists, within my story world, which creates opportunities. So, formats to make it possible, because everybody says, yeah, but transmedia storytelling, the budget will go higher. Yes, it will go higher, but if you use formats to make it possible, that's a big advantage, I think. If you formatize something, you make it, most of the time, cheaper. So you make a format, for example, an Insta story, Insta reel. You make one episode of that Insta reel within a kind of structure, and then you can copy it, just fill it in. You can do it, but also somebody else. Formats to make it possible to do transmedia storytelling. So an interview becomes more than an interview. Voila. And of course, the new tools. New tools. Your smartphone, but also cameras. With a big DSLR photo camera, you can make beautiful video. If you have a laptop and you have Avid or Final Cut Pro or Premiere, I don't care which software, which is a very boring discussion, and you are a production company. If you put it on YouTube, on Vimeo, on whatever platform, you're even a distributor. So why do you need television companies? Cut out the middleman. And that's becoming an issue, of course, today. Do I hate the middleman? Do I hate television companies? No, I don't. I think they will exist next to each other. They won't disappear. Live television won't disappear. It will change a little bit, but it will exist within that story world. So you have to bear in mind the transmedia production planning and try to get people together at early stage. And all of this will create editorial piece, of course. Sometimes, within a few years. All right, another video, very good example. You're never going to see it, about Heinz tomato ketchup, and you can probably Google it. Talk to the Plant, which is a very good example of public participation, which I'm going to elaborate in a few minutes. Okay, so you know what transmedia storytelling is about. You know how to design and what are the pitfalls, the do's and the don'ts within transmedia storytelling. Now you need a plan. And the plan is called a story world. You have to create a story world. What is a story world? It's the pre-visualization of your stories within the platforms, within the media, within the formats, and so on and so on. I have some examples, not in video. Luckily, it's just photos, so they will work. And this is, for example, a transmedia story world for marketing. How can you notice that it's typical for marketing? Because, of course, at this side, at this parameter, at this axis, you have the platform. And on the lower axis, you have a timeline, which is typical marketing. Marketeers like to use timelines. Maybe you're a journalist, or you're a television maker, or you're an online creator, or whatever. Probably you won't use the timeline axis. No problem at all. So what do you see now? You see the different stories. Street grab, Susan's story, old behavior, kidnapper exposed. Those are stories. You always start with a story. That's a big mistake in transmedia storytelling. You don't start with the tool. That's typical for students, for media students. And I think there are a few media students here. So if I ask which story I'm going to tell, I'm going to use video. No, then you start with a medium. Yes, I'm going to edit on Avid. I don't care. Which story are you going to tell? And in a perfect world, in an ideal world, your story will define your platform, will define your medium, will define your tool. That's the way to go. So most of the time, I also do some content creation, and people come to me and they say, oh, I have a lot of budget, and I would like that you make a video for me. And then I think, all right, so my wife can go shopping, which is a cliche, I know, but she really likes shopping. And then I listen to the guy, or the girl, and after 5 minutes I say, well, you don't need a video. You need a brochure. You need a text, see? So your story and your target group, of course, and your story and your target group defines everything else. Medium, platform, even tool. Sometimes I use very big cameras like that one, or even bigger, and sometimes I use my smartphone. Who added video on their smartphone? See this? All the rest, shame on you, I know shaming isn't 2022, I know, shame on you, Yeah? Why? Why don't you do it? Probably because you don't know it, you don't like it, even if you never tried it. So I have the option between filming with a big camera or filming with my smartphone, or editing on my laptop with Avid, Premiere, I don't care, or with an app. I have the option. So it's not an or story, it's an and story. And if it has to go fast, which is typical for transmedia storytelling, if it has to go fast, or if I'm lazy, and I'm always lazy, I probably will use my smartphone. You won't do it because you've never done it. So this evening, you're going to download an app and edit video on your smartphone.
What if I have done it, but I don't do it?
Then you already know it. That's a good option. And if you don't do it because you think you're way faster on your laptop, okay, we could do a race. I will win. All right. So this is an example of a story world. This is another one. See, there is no timeline experience. It's about a hackathon where you again see some media and the stories. What I'm telling in Dutch, oude wijn in nieuwe vaten. I'm not sure if you use that. Nee, dat is Vlaams. Ja, sorry. Ja, voor de mensen die het nog niet doorhebben, ik ben Vlaams. Oude wijn in nieuwe vaten, which means there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah? This is a story world of 1956, of Disney. 56, but don't make the mistake between franchise, and transmedia storytelling. Franchise is, for example, K3. You all know K3? Yeah? Okay, oof. Yeah? Een K3 boterhammendoos, K3 lunchbox is not transmedia storytelling. K3 lunchbox is franchise. Why isn't it transmedia storytelling? Because it doesn't tell a story. The K3 lunchbox is just about getting Gert Verhulst is the big boss of Studio 100, getting him a bigger boat. That's what K3 boterhammendoos is about. Huh? Huh? But all the rest is transmedia storytelling. For example, Disney put out Mickey Mouse, which was a good movie, animation, in the cinema, platform, medium. So try to think about those terms. And they saw that there was a character, Goofy, which tested very good in the target audience. And what did they do? They gave Goofy his own storyline on a different platform, in this case, in a comic book. Different story, Goofy, same medium, animation. Well, not same medium. The one is moving animation. The other one is strip. It's just a comic book. See? Different platform, cinema, comic book. See? This is transmedia storytelling. So try to make it. If you are doing a project in a few years, or now, even for school, try to make a transmedia story world before you start, of course. And you will see that if you think transmedia storytelling, you will create more creative formats. It's a different way of thinking. And probably within your first story world, you will have way too much ideas, and then you will probably say, "Wow, we're not going to make that because we don't have the time, we don't have the skills, we don't have the budget, and so on." Well, that's a luxury situation because you can always skip stories. See, so try to use transmedia thinking as a creative process. If you don't do that beforehand, before you start filming, before you start writing, before you start recording a podcast, you will probably lose some opportunities. I will give a simple example. When I do a video report, I sometimes make a moving still. A moving still, you probably know it. I put my camera somewhere for 10 minutes in record, and then I use that image for my site. So if you land on my site, you will say, "Oh, it's a photo," and then after a few while, you say, "Oh, no, it's not a photo because the boat in the background is moving." That's a moving still. See? If you don't think about the moving still beforehand within your story world, you will probably not make it when you're there. Bente was het, ja. Bente, I will make a report about her hockey career, but probably I will ask her what is her favorite dish. And I will use the favorite dish with my smartphone on Instagram for a separate format. If you want to know about Bente, her hockey career, click here and you're on YouTube. See? A link. Do you have recipes of your own you want to share? Public participation. Yeah? Okay. I'm almost done. And you can it's a Flemish example, so you learn a little bit more about the Belgium broadcast industry or the Belgium media structure. But you can apply transmedia storytelling on different levels. For example, on a brand level. Those are all the brands of the VRT, the public broadcaster. But you can also apply it on a lower level. For example, in this case, Sporza, and Sporza is the brand for all the sports within VRT. And Sporza has stories on TikTok, has master classes, has Facebook Live, has podcast, also television, and has an app. See, I'm using the platforms now, which is not good, of course. I should have used stories. I'm going to do that in a minute. But this is the story world in platform of Sporza. And then you could say, well, Tokyo 2020 is coming up. What is the story world we're going to make? Which is, again, a lower level. And you can still go down. For example, probably Nina Derwaal. Nina Derwaal is probably going to win a gold medal tomorrow. What are the stories within that story? It's about the competition. You have Simone Biles and stuff like that. It's maybe about Nina Derwaal, how she went from a little girl to an Olympic champion. Where did she train? What was her trainer? And so on. Maybe it's about the points in gymnastics, Olympic gymnastics. If they curl their toes, maybe they have less points. What's about that? See, those are the stories. See, so you can define all those separate stories. Haha. Okay. So all this creates different story patterns. You all know this. We talked about that in the beginning of my presentation, linear. And now it's an open world from no story. And no story is the metaverse. No story is The Sims. For people who are really old, The Sims. You make your own story. This is, sorry, there was no story. This is Bandersnatch. Who knows Bandersnatch? My. Dacht dat ik de boomer was. Ja? Bandersnatch is an interactive, and please watch it. Yeah? Is an interactive episode on Netflix where you can choose. It's pick your own path video or choose your own destination video, where you can decide how the story will evolve, and it has this pattern. What is the big problem with Bandersnatch and interactive videos, and the biggest mistake of people who are making it, is that you don't have the linear structure anymore. And you need the linear structure to have attention span and spanningsboog. Because if you don't have attention span, I will probably not go further into your story. So what does Bandersnatch do? They will put linear blocks and non-linear blocks. So if you click on an interactive story, you think, wow, I have an original story. The story I'm watching, nobody watches, which is bullshit, of course. They have some options, but they still go back to a main story, so they will have attention span, see? So storytelling is evolving, the way we consume stories is evolving, and the way our brain works, we hebben allemaal de spanningsboog van een pindanoot. The way our brain works in relationship to stories is evolving rapidly. And all those different patterns are becoming a part of your story world, you could say. Voilà. I think I'm going to end with this. Yeah. I'm almost done, and then we have lots of time for questions. So, public participation, the receiver as part of the story. And I explained the example of Tomorrowland, of course. When you open your ticket of Tomorrowland, it's a little box, and when you open it, probably some alpha stuff will escape, and you're already in Tomorrowland. Yeah? This was one of the big. Do you have Bicky Chips here? Bicky Chips? No? Which is Bicky Chips is chips, you know, some pretzels. And this was a very famous wedstrijd, a game from Lay's, and people could send in their own taste each year. So there was honey glazed ribs, not good. And then, like a Bicky burger, somebody said it would be nice if you have the taste of a Bicky burger in chips. This was public participation, one of my favorite. I'm still fond of Bicky chips, and Bicky chips are still in the warehouses in Belgium today, in the Colruyt or whatever. Voilà. And I'm going to end with this. This is my favorite example of transmedia storytelling, of course, because what was Red Bull a few years ago? It was animation. Remember, Red Bull geeft je vleugels? Yeah? Voilà, everybody knows that. And they skipped that. What was that? It was a commercial, 30 seconds, and they paid a lot of money to RTL or to whatever broadcaster to air that commercial, which is a typical, a traditional way of communicating in marketing, in video marketing. Red Bull said, fuck that. We're not going to do that anymore. And they linked themselves, more than 15 years ago, to extreme sports. which is totally bullshit, because Red Bull is an unhealthy, rather disgusting, jawel, Bente, jawel, a disgusting beverage. That's Red Bull. So there is no connection to extreme sports, whatever. But they did it, and people believed it, and they still believed it. When I say Red Bull, you probably will link it to skydiving or whatever. And then they did this. Felix Baumgartner jumped out of space with a parachute, which was a record. And for me, it was the moon landing of my generation. Did anybody see this live? Yeah? Boring as hell, Boring as hell. So what did you saw? You saw a guy in a big uniform, way too big, standing in a capsule for hours, and the only thing he did was this. And that was it. And then my heart filled with joy. So it was, and at that time, it was one big commercial for Red Bull. And instead of paying RTL to air them commercials, RTL asked them, can we please use your stunt in all of our news programs? See? So it's flipping the way how we communicate with our audience. So this was, for me, the start of transmedia storytelling. Sorry for the ADHD gehalte.
Big round of
thank
applause
you.
to Tom.
Cheers.
We're gonna, we do chairs. We'll do chairs again, of course. We'll do chairs. Will you take the chair, and then I'll tell you guys that this is the part of the.
I will stand. I'm
This is
still
our
young.
interactive
I'm still
part.
young. You
Okay,
can
okay.
use them your role, so no problem.
Think of an audience question you have. I have one as, which might be too specific. You just tell me. But I, as a content creator, I myself, I struggle with what platform to use constantly. And what I was wondering about is how do you make these decisions? When is something fit for
Yeah.
TikTok, and when should it be an Instagram reel, for example?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, remember at the beginning I said it's a combination of multimedia, cross-media, transmedia. So not everything has to be transmedia. Not everything has to be transmedia, because transmedia costs a lot of money. So sometimes it's okay to just duplicate. And sometimes it works. If, for example, VRT put out a documentary, Panel, which was 10 minutes on Facebook. 10 minutes on Facebook. And it scored very good. See? It scored very good. That doesn't answer your question. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to try to answer it now. Which platform do you want to use? Where your target group is, of course. Where your target group is, of course. And then people say, well, TikTok is for very young people, which is not true anymore. Because of COVID, the target group of TikTok has rise, of course. And yeah, it changed to, for example, Be Real now. And sometimes things disappear. Who is on Clubhouse? Who is still on Clubhouse? Voilà. Who knows Clubhouse? Voilà. Buried and dead. Clubhouse was a social media platform for audio, which was the next big thing. You had to be invited. It was beta. It was exclusive. It should have revolutionized the world. Didn't succeed. It's gone. So you have to be on the platform where your target group is. Biggest problem is they're on different platforms. How do you decide when to go really transmedia storytelling? The importance of your story. If it's a very important thing, it's the key of your story, try to do it transmedia. Also, if you have some more time, then do it transmedia. If you say, well, it's a small story, then you can go cross-media and just alter it for the platform. But don't put every story or the same story on every platform, because then you don't do any transmedia storytelling.
Okay, I'm taking notes here.
Yeah,
Notes,
okay.
Thank you. Can we make Matthias run, please? Who has a question in the audience? Please, over there, have one. Help me out here. I also still have one last thing. What I'm curious about is I see you talking about all these new media trends. Be Real, for example, has been around for now like 5 months that my friends and me have been using it. How do you sort of scope out what the next platform for this form of storytelling is gonna be? Do you download all of the apps? How many?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of friends, but I do have a lot of apps. No. It's triestig, Don't take an example of that. So if you see some, for example, commercial on Instagram, oh, I have a new app. I'm the crazy guy who always downloads all those apps and tests them. That's my job. Again, with new platforms, I try to follow it. Do I have a glass bowl and know what the next revolution is about? Of course not. I always attend IBC here in Amsterdam. You all know IBC probably. A few years ago at IBC, 3D TV was the thing. 3D TV. Now 3D TV is dead. See? So you have to follow. And who thinks Be Real will stay, or we will still talk about Be Real in 5 years? Denk het ook niet. Denk het ook. Only Bente. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
As a brand, should you be on every platform, even if it's not sponsored? Like on Instagram nowadays, it's only sponsor stuff. You get, you have to eat all day. But should you be as a brand on every platform?
No, be on the platform again where your target group is, and for as a brand, and especially companies within corporate communication, corporate storytelling, LinkedIn is a very important one. And remember other think about platforms also in a different way. Remember a tattoo for your body? Well, offline events like this, is a platform, but even this is cross-media. Because we have a platform here, but probably it's live stream or it's recorded. So we have 3 platforms. It's live stream now, and it's video on demand in a few hours probably. See, that's cross-media. Why is it cross-media? It's the same story. If you now ask me about my hobby or about my newest book, and you put that on Instagram, it's transmedia. And it's not that hard to do because I'm here, which is the most difficult part. I came here with NS, which was a disaster. All the trains, because of Belgium. The train started with a delay in Belgium, in Brussels, not here. So that's the hard part. To interview me after this talk in 5 minutes, that doesn't cost a lot more. So that's the way I think. I think in transmedia. So you create opportunities.
And as a brand, should you choose to tell different stories?
Yeah, you should do that.
Okay.
You really should do that. That's the biggest mistake television companies, marketing companies do. They say, well, we made a story, so we have to put it on all platforms. Don't do that. Don't do that. If it is a very important, expensive story, you can do that. See? If it's the heart of your story about sustainability, why is our company sustainable? Okay, no problem. The laws about sustainability, don't put us on the own platform. Remember when you said, on what platform should I be? Well, your content also decides on what platform you should be. And the laws is maybe not a big or a good choice on Instagram. It's maybe better on your site. But maybe a portrait, a testimonial of a person on your company who explains what sustainability is, why is it important for her, that could be as a portrait or as an Insta story or as an Insta reel.
I'm still taking notes here, Tom. Thank you.
I have a last one to get back to.
No, wait. Before we go into that, any audience question, then we round off the audience part. There's a few. But these guys start with that one? No, I'm kidding. Go there.
Ladies first. Who's first?
If it's about my book, it's on bol.com. Just kidding.
What's your screen time on your phone?
Sorry?
Like, what would be an acceptable screen time on your phone? What's your screen time?
No, don't ask that. Fuck. If my wife asks, 2 hours. If you look at my phone, probably 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours a day. Yeah. Don't tell it to my wife, because I'm watching television romantically with my wife, but I'm in 2 couches, so she's a little bit in front of me, which is very strategically, and then of course I'm not watching television. I'm on my phone always. Yeah, it's a choice. Also, with you could think about privacy and stuff like that, and especially your generation, but I'm no different. I don't think a lot about privacy. I should do it, but I don't think that much. I always download every app, I don't care, and I always consent. Can I use, otherwise you can't use this app, can I use your data? Of course you can do. Which is not a good thing, I know. Yeah, but my screen time is a disaster. Yeah, I should. Yeah, that's the reason why I don't have a lot of friends. Matthias is my friend. Voilà.
The main goal of television companies is to make people watch linear television.
Yeah.
What's your view on
Yeah.
linear television in combination with transmedia storytelling?
Yeah, that's why they invest in shows like for example, The Voice or sports, and not in fiction anymore. You see a lot of fiction moving to OTT platforms like Netflix and stuff like that, because there is no reason to watch a football game the day after. So The Voice, again, the same thing. It is declining, and especially the commercial, the buying of commercial or the selling of commercial is that model is really hard. And you see television companies searching for new ways. And for example, they're all starting their own OTT platforms. For example, in Belgium, VRT Max just launched. And you see, and that's a way of transmedia storytelling. You see, or cross-media storytelling, or multimedia. The same episode of that show is put on VRT Max, which is multimedia. See, to get as much eyeballs, in this case, revenue as possible. Yeah. So they are evolving, but it's going slow, and they have to have they have old company structures with also the wrong profiles, which is probably interesting for you. If you are now only a color grader, for example, you will find difficulties in finding a job. Does the sector still need color graders? Absolutely, but they are shifting to more hybrid profiles. People who can work with a camera, but also can edit, and also know a little bit about storytelling. See? And maybe can also translate their story to social media. If you don't have that profile, you will have a problem. Again, I don't have anything about against DOPs, directeur de photo, or color graders, or audio specialists. I really love them. Yeah, but you see that the amount of those people in the sector is declining.
A question connected to this, the Black Mirror thing and the Bandersnatch. Do you think there is a future in this?
Don't exaggerate. So for example, 360 video. You know it? Yeah? It still exists. Is it a big revolution? No. But it still exists. And it will exist within certain domains. For example, 360 video training. So that's why VR, we now have, probably in Holland too, you have VR arcades, where you can put on some glasses and you play and you do a shootout and so on. Is this the way we will consume VR in 5 years? I don't know. I don't know. The first film, cinema, was in a small module where you have to, in one guy, and you had to look in a hole and you saw some naked girls probably. Yeah? Not probably, it was the case. Some magicians and some naked girls. That was the start of cinema. Then they invented the projector, yeah? And even now, cinema hasn't changed a thing. Even the stories haven't changed a thing. More than 150 years later, we still watch the same thing. Well, that's happening with VR. I don't think we are already there, how we consume VR. Do I think that the VR arcades will be there, will still be there in 10 years? No, I don't think so. No.
Do you think the cinema has a future?
I think probably at home, with more simple, less expensive devices, and with non-downloadable content, but just streaming. Now it doesn't exist. Why? The latency is an issue, because you get seasick, you get VR sickness, motion sickness, because there is latency, vertraging between the stream and your VR goggles. This will be solved in 1 year. This will be solved in 1 year. So I'm not sure how it's going to evolve, but I don't think the arcades will be there. So we see that's the relationship between technology and how we tell stories. Sometimes people will try to define me as a technology guy. Sometimes people will try to define me as a technology guy, as a storytelling guy, which is a stupid discussion. And you see, most of the time, younger people don't do that. Don't do that. Only older people do that. Oh yeah, he's the tech guy, or he's the technical guy. Oh no, he's the editorial guy. He doesn't know anything about techniques, which is bullshit, of course. Nowadays, you can combine form technique, technology, and storytelling. You have to do it. You have to do it.
There was one last question over here. Yeah, run for it, Matthias. Go, go. In the meantime, Tom, we in the Netherlands, we have Joppie Saus chips that won the
Voilà, it's
competition.
the same thing.
I can totally recommend it. It's really good.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to taste it. No, really.
So you talked about this. Why do you think, for example, technology like 3D TVs are dead? Because people still buy tickets to the cinema to see a movie in 3D.
Yeah, the cinema, that's the platform, because you don't want to sit at home with glasses on it, together with your wife, Matthias, you're my wife now, together with my wife with glasses on, it didn't work. And also the quality wasn't that good. And again, who saw a 3D cinema movie the last month? Voilà, not that much. See? So also that is declining. If you can do that without glasses, within a nice setting, and it really works, it probably will survive. So the technology isn't there yet. And the same thing with moving cinema chairs and stuff like that, and wind blowing out. Have you ever done it? It's not that big of a success. Voilà.
Okay. Well, if that's the last audience question, I feel like we're at the end of this session. Another round of applause to Tom.
Thank you.
And Matthias, it brings us on our break. We're back
Little
here
break indeed.
at 1 o'clock, and then we're
yeah.
talking to the guys from Afro Belg who went from Instagram sensation to TV series.
Exactly.
All of that at 1 o'clock. See you
Enjoy
then.
your lunch.
Bye.